and welcome, folks, to Syncretism. What a lovely day here in Australia. Hopefully the same for the rest of you folks. Thanks for joining. I have some very special guests today, as I have announced and advertised. We have Robert Otey and Matt Presti, and we're going to be dealing with some Russellian natural science. Walter Russell, natural science. And I am sure you're going to absolutely enjoy today's show. Now, Kate, are you there?
Hi, sure am, Santos. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks for taking the board today.
Anytime, you know that.
Yeah, beautiful.
I just don't know who it's who, so I don't know what area codes you're calling in. I've got three calls. I've got an area code 406, 602, and 804, so I don't know who's who here.
All right, well, I'll get Robert and Matt to let you know which one's which, respectively.
Yeah,
I'll get them to...
just get them to put it into your Skype, and or you can type in Skype, and I can put them on the board so I know who they are. Okay?
Excellent. But in the meantime, we have a great announcement and some great news from Pete. You there, Pete?
I am here.
Yeah, you beauty. I hear the good news. So how would you like to share some stuff with us?
Oh, very good. Yeah, we've basically been uncovering the debacle, the sham, and basically this applies to anything that has to do with insurance. The whole system is run by insurance. It's one big-ass LLC, limited liability corporation. So it's ironic that this red box thing that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, so we finally now are sort of turning a corner on finding the connections, and it's obviously, believe it or not, it's in all the states, and it's in their rules of 4, rules of 8, it's called, with putting this red box around the document and then putting forth together an order for them to provide. Matter of fact, every contract out there, I just found this out, between Kate, myself, and my brother in Chicago, we've been beating the brakes off of things, coming to these aha moments on multiple different levels, tying in all the loose ends. Yeah, this red box thing is sort of the kiss of death. It's sort of the Achilles heel, and you can come forward as a live man to deal with them a mano in their live capacity. I don't care if it's a clerk of the court, a DA, a judge. You bring them forward in the private side. You put it all in the red box. I'm in the creation mode of getting this stuff. So that means basically, and believe me, when I say this, every mortgage, every credit card debt, they're all unilateral contracts. There's never been 2 signatures on any damn document, valid creditor-debtor signatures on anything. So I just pulled this out of this gentleman Lentz's information, and he's been covering this stuff. As a matter of fact, we've been dialoguing with him a little bit ourselves, and we're trying to pull in some of the other sharp blades in the drawer. But it's amazing how when you really start digging in and searching for stuff that you actually find some parallels. And the irony is, yeah, they buried it within their insurance game. Speaking of insurance, this just came across my desk from Patrice, and if it's true, these people really are in the deep end of the pool on a whole different level. And I need the minute to dialogue on this because I will get verification, so I can refute it or deny it. I said, this is what came from Patrice, but I haven't been able to double confirm it. But Patrice is a real good researcher. She was a captain in the Air Force, so I give her a little pull. I'll give her some kudos because she does know how to research as well. She goes, I was about to send you the whole issue of the FDIC. The FDIC and the FSLIC have been dropped on all banks in the nation as of November 23rd. And what made these banks and instrumentalities of federal government was their membership in such insurance programs. There we go with the insurance, folks. This is why I'm saying it's beautiful when it all starts dragging together because it's all about the insurance. The bonds are all underwritten by insurance. The hazard bond, the bid bond, performance bond, all this crap is tied to the dadgum insurance game. And it seems that our brothers in the banking industry have just lost all their insurance. So that means they're all flying without a net. So this is really, really interesting. So this is where a 2 + 2 = 4. Anyways, the irony is The feds have dropped them under insurance coverage, which voids the bank's instrumentality status. Okay, not talking about stock brokerage houses or credit unions or pension funds, which are under scrutiny. Just FDIC and FSLIC member banks who now no longer have a membership, as those insurance associations are gone. Which is, of course, the Federal Reserve Bank is one of those instrumentalities, as well as Pete. So what you share below dovetails right in with what I've been tracking. While people were camping and screaming Black Friday, all the banks were dropped out of membership in the FDIC and the FSLIC, given that the insurance of the banks had to dissolve first to drop the Federal Reserve banks, which makes sense with what I write below. It wasn't me. This came from a brother in the country here. I'll explain that in a minute. Anyways, they can't dissolve the Federal Reserve Bank and then have the people go nuts making insurance claims, so they had to unravel and dissolve the banking insurance mail strip first, which they did do quietly on Friday. Do people know this? That's what Patrice asked me.
They sure do know. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Kate, I posted it in your box, and I posted it over at I just put this in as I was getting on the call. It says, this is very interesting that we all sort of need to look at it. And so I forwarded it to Brother Ted, and he says, well, who's this guy, blah, blah, blah. Well, I have some pretty impeccable sources who know a lot more than I do and are tied in differently. Anyways, I just want to read this below to you. If it be true, that will be fantastic. I'm from the Show Me State, but it's sort of ironic that Patrice broaches the issue of the FDIC's losing their insurance and the FRB and all these folks. And then this came to me this afternoon. I'm going to leave the party neutral out of this. So, anyways, December 13, 2012, the Federal Reserve will be dissolved and direct issuance of lawful money returned to the USA and will be out of bankruptcy. The bank will not be renewed. It means states will be reconstituted as lawful sovereign entities. It means that all the bond insurance issues will vaporize. It means a return to common law, and that pleas in the court will be returned innocent instead of not guilty under their fiction scam. It means no more hypothecation on the backs of men and women. It means the choice to leave the 14th Amendment U.S. Slave Ship Status Corporation is open for business to all men and women. Something in reference to the dinar will likely revalue, and it means that my people over here have quit trying to, well, my brothers in another place in the country have quit creating solutions in reference to the bond issues and stuff like that. Well, I'm not stopping what I do until I'm from the Show Me State, so until I can prove irrevocably that this may come to pass, and also it is saying it means the IRS will leave the Federal Reserve Bank, and it means the CAFRs will be released. And we've talked about the CAFRs on this on multiple shows. Anyways, this is it's just, folks, everything's really moving at a rapid speed. The vibration's high. I feel the change. I feel the pulse. It's ironic. I knew why I was having a low drag a couple days ago, and then I look out and I see the almost full moon, and my vibration's high again. I'm resonating well. Energy levels are back on track. And then I have these so-called, I call them V8 moments, all damn day yesterday, pulling this crap together with how the insurance ties into the scam. The red box is all about it. When you put your stuff in a box, okay, folks, don't go out and do the red box unless you know what the hell you're doing. So I'm not giving anybody advice. I don't give advice. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm already on the Crunchberry Trail. I understand process and I understand administrating. So don't y'all go off on a tangent and start throwing shit in a box and thinking you're going to get some remedy or something. You better know how to operate. Yes.
Peter, I just want to put it in layman's terms for people. This won't take any more than 20 seconds. What Peter is effectively saying is that because of all of this that is coming down with the insurances, every bank is naked. Every transaction that was put through the bankrupt court system, which was in collusion with the banking system, is nullified. And in a greater sense, what I see coming from this, and we've been hardcore on this since about Thursday, so this Friday thing does not surprise me based on what we've been uncovering. As above, so below. That's how it works. Creator says so. That's how it does it, right? Create the vortex, baby. Create the vortex. What this is going to do is nullify everything. So everyone that was removed from their home unlawfully, illegally, this all gets zeroed and returned.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Implosion time. Implosion time, guys. It was foretold. They all operate on contracts. They can only contract to do evil for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And then the contract expires.
Oh,
The day of release.
With regards to Matt and Rob trying to get on, do they have Facebook accounts?
Hold on.
Not sure.
Okay, because they can log on to Blog Talk that way. They don't have to set up an account. If they have Facebook, which they probably do, just tell them to log in that way, and then I can see them on the board. So I'm guessing that the other callers that have called in are just listening. Anyway, so I'll keep an eye on the board here, but if you can get to them and just let them know to sign in via Facebook, we can get them on the show stat.
Good. Done. I've already told them. Okay.
But it's so ironic, Santos. Yeah, it's like, we've been digging for gold, pulling up the rocks, finding all this stuff, and then all of a sudden these epiphanies. Like I say, you can't make this crap up. Who would have thought they buried this BS right dead in the middle of their insurance game? And yeah, it's all about the insurance because it's one big-ass LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, the IMF. So, I mean, my brother over in another part of the country told me, he goes, well, I got some good news and I got some bad news. So he sends me the good news about all this stuff coming down. He goes, yeah, the bad news is you ain't going to be able to beat the brakes off the bitch no more.
Yeah, you'll find.
Go ahead.
You'll find that it's the same culprits as usual. All insurance is taken care of in good old little Venice, Italy, on that little island built on the maritime waters. You see, they dare not put their insurance scheme on the land. You see, the Venetians followed the Phoenicians in building their great city Tyre in the Mediterranean Ocean. See, the Phoenician system, which is the insurance system that we have today, is a maritime system. And that's how fictional it is, man. It comes off an island. It's not even established on the land, because it cannot be. Because we live on the land. It has to be from some fictional source, you see. This is how they've duped us, and they do it time and time again. So they've been caught out.
Yeah, we finally got them, Santo.
Yeah.
No, that's it. Just something while we're waiting for these guys to get on here. Still watching the board. 1 sec. No, just numbers. Anyway, I had a thought, because we, and this ties in with what Matt and Rob are going to be talking about with regards to vortices and what have you, with the BAT model of the solar system. You know the one I referred to.
Yep.
We are basically right now flying like the Apollo 13. Okay. And it's those are two key things: Apollo, sun god; 13, that is divinity. Okay?
Yeah.
13th warrior. And if you remember the scene when the crippled spacecraft was coming towards Earth, they didn't have computers to calculate their direction, and if they didn't get their calculations right with the gimbal, they would have skipped off the Earth's atmosphere and went off into space. So what we're dealing with right now is, with the correction that we're having, is we as a collective of the neurons, basically we are the sperm heading towards the sun of creation, the egg of creation. And what we've been doing with the precessional wobble is we've been trying to adjust our gimbal. And what's happening now with the north and south magnetic poles moving towards each other to get into that neutral central to create that vortice. What we're doing now is we're finally at a point where all of these things are coming together, and we are correcting the gimbal on the fly, literally. So I just wanted to share that concept. So I do want to talk to you about this at some point very, very soon.
Excellent. Now, Kate, I've got the two numbers. We've got Matt. They're the two numbers. So if you can just accept those, and we'll have Matt Presti.
And 925, I'm assuming, are the ones that just came in.
Yep.
Okay, their mics are both hot now.
Santos.
Oh, lovely.
Good evening.
Hey, Robert, how are you? Matt,
Good.
how are you? Yeah.
I'm here also.
Yeah, how are you, Robert?
Good.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we've just had a really, really good announcement. We generally have a panel on the show Syncretism today, and so we've just had a really good announcement, and that's going to just tie in really nicely with what you guys have been talking about. I've advertised far and wide that you guys are going to join us today. Now, just briefly, folks, Robert Otey is probably going to be dealing with more of the scientific stuff of Russellian science. And Walter Russell, if you haven't seen my presentation, I'll probably quote from him in every presentation I do. Now, I am nowhere near as proficient as Matt and Robert in Russellian science, but I consider myself to be a baby disciple of Walter Russell. But I do urge the listeners, please, and you will probably go out and get some of Russell's books after today's show. But Robert will be dealing more with the technical scientific stuff, and then Matt will be dealing with the philosophical and the spiritual, metaphysical, perhaps, side of the divinity side of creation, and Walter Russell's beautiful understanding of God and how science has left the God factor, the divine factor, out of science. Therefore, they are groping around in the darkness. So, pleasure to have you guys. Thank you so much for joining us after all those technical difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Santos.
Yeah. Great stuff. Look, there are so many places we could start today's conversation because Walter Russell touched on so many subjects, but you guys said something very, very interesting on the show that we did last week on American Freedom Radio, and I urge all listeners to go back and have a listen to that one because that was one of my best, if not the best show I've ever been involved in. For content, the greatest content, because if we're not basing everything we do on science and knowledge, we're building our houses on the sandy soil, and the water will, and the floods will come and wipe it, and the winds will come and blow it down. But if you want to build your home on a rocky foundation, it must be built on firm science, not the science you get in the institutions today, folks. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. The listeners are pretty switched on, but nonetheless, we do have a lot of false prophets still out there that still cling to the nuclear atom theory and string theory and quantum physics and all of these complicated poo-poo non-existent things. So we're gonna smash those, and I'm so happy to have you guys today to do that, because I think you are the best in the land to do that today. And so perhaps we could talk about some of the things that we left off of American Freedom Radio. And one of those things that you mentioned, perhaps Matt, you might like to start. I think it was you that mentioned how science will never know anything because they are looking at the effects, the vibration, and they cannot discern the still light, the still magnetic light that is God, the Creator. Therefore, they will forever be groping in darkness. So if you'd like to take that thought on.
Certainly, Santos. We did discuss this briefly about concept having to precede form, and how if you were to remove the concepts of mankind, there would be no form of his imaginings created in the simulations that we call bodies or bodies of work, that those bodies are anything. You look at anything man has made, and before it was a body, it was a thought. So that's the fundamental difference between materialistic science and the science of mystics throughout the ages and sages, is that their understanding of the universe, which is a divine concept, is that this is a thought wave universe. And Russell is absolutely on board with that. And basically what we have is a three-dimensional 21st century alchemy and hermeticism that is finally beginning to take root in more minds. And it's great to see And really, the whole thing of it is that when you learn to master the mind of yourself, which is an extension of the mind of the Creator, you realize that power is not external. Power is internal. And to the degree that that a man has power of mind is the awareness of that power is to the degree that he can command his body. And electricity is the soul working force of creation. It's the soul working force of mind itself. And you use your mind and through electricity command the body to respond. We master techniques, we master different fields and things like that. And any mastery of art first takes thought and then action to produce those bodies of thought.
Oh, wow. That's just music to my ear, guys. That's just music to my ear. Of course, the mind is an electromagnetic or electrochemical, as they say, computer, is it not? There are dendrites, synapses.
Right. The mind is universal. The mind is the causal force of creation itself and is always at rest. It uses the brain. And when mind unfolds its desire, it acts electrically through the body computer. And the body computer is what produces the works of art, genius, mastery, even down to the sweeping of a floor. You couldn't even lift your finger to scratch your nose if you didn't first conceive the thought in your mind to act upon it to do so.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, so brain is the little computer sitting in the head that's working for mind, universal mind, which is who we are.
Exactly, and that's one of the fundamental differences was Russell pointed out that there's a major difference between knowing and sensing, or between knowing and thinking. Thinking in sense-based definitions, what the senses do, the brain's an electric recording device, much like a DVD or a thumb drive or a hard drive. It records the effects that the senses gather for it. And those are generally what we call experiences in the human world. And so as our experiences are recorded, what is not recorded, however, is the mind itself, which the mind is it's the causal force which acts through the body to experience creation. And what we experience is recorded on the brain electrically. And that's why generally people, when they get in their older years, especially people that live the sense-based existence, begin to, many people get what's called Alzheimer's, which is an inability to recall those stored memories upon the brain. But generally geniuses do not get Alzheimer's because what they use is the mind itself. But, it certainly can happen, but it's a lot less because the power exercised through the mind of genius used the brain for much more than just to please its body, if you will. And that's, again, another fundamental difference between the genius among men and the mediocre, is that the geniuses produce bodies that last and endure, where the mediocre men tend to just stimulate their senses with football games and all the other myriads of garbage that are out there to entertain the senses. You think about a casino and the blinking lights and the bells, and that's all purely for the body senses. And that's why they sure do a good job at keeping people distracted and keeping them in a body-dwelling state. Even in schools, they don't promote using your mind. They promote competition early on. So it's pretty much a thing where if we're going to reverse the tides of this world, we have to do so through higher octaves of thinking itself. And I think we need to recognize that there is a fundamental difference between mind and the brain. Just as if we don't say that a DVD player has intelligence or that a hard drive has intelligence, but we can measure electrical signals through it. So when we're thinking, and you use an EKG machine, you will see waves registering. But what you're measuring is the electric waves of the brain that are created from the thought process of mind itself. But science won't, of course, they mistakenly say that, your brain is what's thinking, but it's not any more than your computer hard drive can think or than a DVD can think.
Exactly. So we have masses of people that talk about mind, but know not what mind is. In fact, they deny mind, which is their own true divinity, and which is what probably they conceive to be God. But they are still groping around in darkness because they are not able to access that mind because they think that belongs to God, right?
It can surely be said, through what we see in the world are a lot of people disconnected from the spirit. And that's, I think, fundamentally the difference between a lot of the indigenous tribal people and the materialist, you could call it the white man if you wish, or the Deluminati, whatever you care to call them, that have gone around basically wiping out the history of indigenous peoples. Because the indigenous peoples, through the shaman, and through the spiritual side of the tribe itself, understood their connection to the divine source. And they never took it upon themselves to try to conquer the world. But it's really the sense-based materialistic man that is doing the conquering, because that's a barbarian state. It could be akin to if you were to describe consciousness in its states of unfolding. At some point in our time, we were under the instinctual control of the body alone, and we had little, if any, awareness of mind. And the great inspirations that came to the very first men were those inspirations that we can see on the cave walls, the early drawings on caves throughout the world. And I think that's the very beginnings of the unfolding of mind into a higher octave was in those very first creations of man, and we can see how it progresses through the eons, the ages. And so now we're seeing even more intensity in man's creations. And generally, of course, art was some of the first work ever to be done by man. That was a mindful kind of a concept that is recorded in man's history. So art is, as I say, the word art is in the word heart. So I consider myself to be a heartist, if you will.
Hey, was it you, Matt, or was it Robert that spoke about the vortex in the heart?
That was I was talking Frank Chester's work.
Yeah, look, I think we need to talk a little bit about that, because in the heart is, according to the ancient theologists, is the seat of God. This is a wonderful thing that can be explained scientifically.
Yes, exactly. Because as above, so below. The entire universe is based on twin opposing vortices. That's what is at the heart of the cubic wave field model. The magnetic universe is omnipresent. The Creator's still magnetic light universe is everywhere. It's both within and without. It both centers, the cubic wave fields, and it bounds them as well. So a very interesting fellow named Frank Chester had spent 10 years through empirical research, just, the long, laborious method of just, trial and error. He had basically read some of Rudolf Steiner's work and was interested in the seven-sided form. And he was able to basically create what is like, it's almost a Platonic solid. It's similar to a Platonic solid. The only difference is the faces are triangles and kites. They're not all the same. So there's 7 faces. And what he was able to deduce from his studies after 10 years of building these structures and basically putting them in implosion tanks where he had created vortices and waters, and he was able to basically create the aortas of the heart. And he was able to find out that the heart is really a vortex implosion regulator. It's not a pump. What it does is it has twin opposing vortices within the heart, which are centered by that stillness, that point of stillness, which we're calling the still magnetic light of the Creator. So that is the seat of the soul. From that point, it controls everything in the entire body and the motions of the blood through the body. It controls the implosion of the blood because blood implodes. It moves just like water and air and light and electricity. All these things spiral. So Frank Chester was able to prove in an empirical way through geometry that, there's this figure, this thing which he calls the chestahedron. It's a 7-sided form which gives shape and form to the physical heart of humans. So without knowing Russellian science, Frank was able to prove it. And that's the way it is, as above, so below. The Creator's heart and our heart are one, because the body of the entire universe is based on these twin opposing vortices. That's the body of the Creator. The electrical universe is the body. The mind of the Creator is the magnetic universe of stillness.
Wow. Hey, Robert, I've got a quote from Alvin Boyd Kuhn, a great occultist from your country who lived in the early 1900s, yeah?
Yeah, I've read most of his works. Love him.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading from the introduction of Who is This King of Glory? And he says there, the glow of Christliness, a thing at once both chemically radioactive and intellectual, in us, is indeed the hope of our glory. Modern science, through the work of Dr. George W. Krill, late head of the Cleveland Medical Laboratories, has rediscovered what the ancient sages were familiar with, the radiant sun in man. Every man, proclaimed the ancients and the medieval fire philosophers, has a little sun within his own heart. This sun is the Christ in man, a nucleus of fiery divine spirit energy. All the Christs in antiquity were denominated sun gods. The names of nearly all of them are the immediate words for the sun. Our epithets appropriate to the solar orb. All things are the products of one primordial fire, assert Chaldean oracles. How's that?
Precisely. I mean, Kuhn was a genius. The guy was amazing. He's, as far as Hermetic symbolism goes, I don't think that I know of anybody that interprets it better than Kuhn.
Oh, he's the best. He's absolutely the best. And there are other great ones, but this guy, he trumps them all because he understood the deep symbolical meaning in the scriptures. He understood the higher levels. Yeah. And this is important because this is what mind is. It's not the brain. It's not this computer that's been indoctrinated by good old Rome in her institutions. We seem to have given over so much power to these institutions. We pay to go and learn in those institutions, only to be blinded and poisoned.
Right, and as Kuhn has pointed out, it's the mythological side of it is the symbolism that's important. And unfortunately, religions and a lot of historians have taken these symbols to be literal, and then they try to, what that does is destroys the entire meaning because they're not meant to be taken literally. It is symbolic, and there's deep meaning, attached to all of it.
And if I could add into that, Santos, we're talking on the thread under the video from the American Freedom Radio on the YouTube there. There's a guy that just began attacking us for, as the trolls and sheepdogs do. They just come out whenever you threaten their little game of shell antics. They just come right on the attack to go after whatever it is.
Matt, or when you threaten to attack the institutions because these troll boys have been paid.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But our discussion, it's centered around what Robert likes to call, and I love the name, mythematics. And he basically, the guy said, look, if you don't know that math is the only language that's going to tell the absolute true story of the universe, and he's obviously a Descartes worshiper, rationalism and all that, rational idealism. And he really figures that math is the way to figure out the universe. So he obviously is in support of everyone that uses math, like quantum physics and string theory and all this stuff. But really, the simple of it is that math is symbolic. And as George Carlin said, he said, quote, "I leave symbols for the symbol-minded." And basically, you got to look at the universe not through symbols to interpret it. You have to look at it through the motions of what you're seeing, and the motions of the universe. The one motion is spiral, and the one direction is curved. And that's just so profound right there. I mean, and the one equation that expresses it best is the spiraling phi, the 1.618, the golden mean. That you can see it in everything. Every single thing you can find the spiral phi in. And when you consider mind itself, every orb of your body, I think there's some 50 trillion cells that make up an average human body. Each one of those cells has a mind center centering it. So all cells, all spheres move around a common center of magnetic stillness. And I think that really helps to explain. And if you look at basically the cubes and the spheres of creation are the soul working tools. And the cube is a sphere expanded, and a sphere is a cube compressed. And there's your universal heartbeat in the form of the cube and sphere. And each sequence becomes the other and reverses, as it voids each other out. So it's really the science of Russell is really the cutting edge of man's next step into understanding this motion universe for the illusion that it is.
Yeah, it's impeccable. It's faultless. It will be the way for the future. So the more we get it out there, the better, because this is the way of the future. Once the announcement that we made earlier on in the show that the Federal Reserve will be out of business in a couple of weeks' time. Once that happens, because it's owned by the Vatican, once that happens, you'll find that all of this beautiful natural science will come back. It will absolutely come back and be the order of the day, folks. It will be the order of the day. We need to familiarize ourselves with the true science.
Indeed. On Radio 314, I spoke with Lana about the Catholic universe, which is the Big Bang. It's George LeMaitre's baby. And it's funny, many atheists believe in the Big Bang theory as if it was a religious doctrine, but only maybe a small percentage of them know that it was a Catholic priest who came up with the idea. And Pope Pius XII, 1 week after George LeMaitre released his theory, said, our Jesuit priest, Monsignor LeMaitre, confirmed Genesis 1:1 scientifically. So, the Catholics, they've always sought to have the grip on all things knowledge. And I think, to me, part of the 2012 revolution is taking the right to think about our damned universe away from the authorities. And you find it comes best from people that know nature. And Walter was a man of nature, as Schauberger was, and, and other great luminaries of that time who are who I refer to as the true Illuminati, not these deluminated people who hide in the shadows, scheming about, trying to figure out how to control and lower the population. Those aren't true Illuminates, and to even call them Illuminati is doing a disservice to those of us that actually are illuminated or filled with light. And light is love. There's no darkness in illumination. So don't give these people the credit of calling them Illuminati. They're not illuminated. They're full of darkness. Call them the Deluminati. Don't give them the title that would best be fitting to people that are actually filled with light and trying to do honest works of love to help their fellow humanity.
Yeah, these are a deviant, very deviant group of people. These ones. There's no illumination there. Absolutely no illumination. They are the ones that spread
these
darkness.
False... They work in shadows, and there's nothing respectable about that. Anybody can plan to assassinate people in a dark basement. It doesn't take a lot of, super intelligence to do something, idiotic like that. It takes intelligence to put your ass on the line and come out and try to make a difference. And so that's what I think.
Can I share something for a second? Yeah, Santos, we've been sort of banging this drum. They like to hide behind, they skulk. That's all they know how to do is skulk because they have no souls. See, because a real man, like I was telling, I've said this a million times, let's hang out a mano. Show me the real you. Stand up and be a man. Don't be a friggin' chump, some guy hiding in the shadows, creating your dirty deeds, spying on my computer, spying on our electronic grid, our systems behind closed doors. That's a piece of crap weasel with no soul for where I come from, because that's not a man. That's a friggin' dead entity. That's all it can be, because obviously they have no love in their hearts for their brothers and sisters, so we're going to spy on them. So, I say it's all on the wheel. What goes around comes around, because they ain't seen nothing yet. Anyways, I had to share my 2 cents. Sorry.
Thank you. I don't know who you are. Santos, could you introduce us real quick?
Yeah, that's Pete. Pete joins us on the panel. And Kate
hello,
is...
Pete.
Yep.
Hi.
Kate's on the board. Say hello, Kate.
Hey, how's it going? Yes, I'm your resident Two-Spirit. How are you guys?
Hello. Good to meet you all.
Pleasure's ours.
These people can be likened to Skeksis. You ever seen the Dark Crystal? I mean, what a perfect resemblance, the mystics and the Skeksis.
Oh, yeah.
The Skeksis are horrid, ugly things, but I don't think there'll be any coming together at the end of this picture show, however.
No.
We're going to put evil in its place once and for all, and the cosmic illuminates among us, the cosmically conscious human beings who are realizing that they are the cosmos, and all the power of the cosmos is available to each one of us, and we should never, ever again limit ourselves and our potential with any kind of myths, any kind of authoritarian dribble that comes from the academic world or the universities. I mean, there's certainly good things about universities, but universities are supposed to teach the universality of man and the quadrivium and the trivium, the 7 liberal arts. And, basically what we got is a system of creating ants and obedient workers who serve the machine and the military-industrial complex, which is basically like a food grinder. It's just pulverizing creation as it trudges forth with no consciousness.
Yeah.
So
no different than your medical industrial complex. They spitting out the same sorry-ass white coats that are doing chemical therapy upon the masses when there's multitudes of alternative therapies. Because it costs 3 cents a dose and we can't make no money on it, and we can't patent it. We don't want anybody to have it, so that's why they created that goofy Codex Alimentarius under the UN scam. But that's all right. I have access to whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. So these scum-sucking bottom feeders can eat a big turd sandwich with onions. It's all good, because I'm going to create a new reality for all of them, because I see the other side of the fence, and I'm showing my brothers and sisters the other side of that fence, and they're waking up now. Anyways, just more control mechanisms, their whole system. I was in the medical field for 10 years, so I have a little background on what I speak. So, they've been selling the lie on that crap for a long time. So, big pharma, your shots, your poisons, your chemical inducements, anything that's foreign to the body causes deleterious effects over time. Anything all natural, it's always good. It's always good. It's never bad. So, anyways, that's, I guess you call that irony for a minute.
Yeah, the natural, they don't like to use natural cures. They've got treatments from the laboratory, and they've been indoctrinated. So you go to a doctor, and he's going to tell you that we've got a great treatment for you. You go to a priest who is supposed to be a cure, and he'll tell you that you're a little sinner. You're a dirty little piece of turd. You've got to grovel to God to get anywhere. There's no cure. They're dealing in treatments. They treat people like as though they are lost at sea, incapable, incompetent, dead, moronic, and hence that's the world that they've produced. But as Matt just said, we are here to change that, and we will not ever succumb to their control ever again, because the alternative to this awakening that we have is to die, and we are the living ones.
Yes, that's what I say. You know what, folks? If we don't get off our backsides and move forward as a collective, as a group, When do you draw the line in the sand? When do you stand in the breach? When do you stand up for yourself? And that's what it comes down to. It really does. As a divine spirit, as a soul, as a man, as having a human experience, stepping into the brow, and that lets you know you're alive. That, you know, when you get to test your spirit on a whole different level, and they can't control that. Yeah. I mean, I know they're dictates and they got dictators, but that's all right. It doesn't apply to me today. So, you know, that's all people got to do is make a conscious decision to say, okay, you know what, this isn't working, and the alternative is not a viable option. So that's, you know, when you realize what's on the other side of the fence, and that if that's supposed to be the viable option, it's not a viable option. So, folks, this is where where the feet hit the pavement, poop or get off the pot. Really, I mean, it really has come down to that.
Yeah.
When are you going to take a stand? When do we take a stand? We are. Well, you know, we have the collective here, so that's good.
Indeed, and cosmic consciousness. When basically you're not initiated into cosmic consciousness, you decide to be an initiate of it. And one thing that Russell often said was the Creator commanded him to turn his eyes from all that was unlovely. And basically what that means is, yeah, he was certainly aware, you know, there were schemes and how the rich have gone mad with, you know, different things, and how their discontentment with the world and all these other various modes of evil and the way it operates, which man creates his own evil, you know, as Russell said as well. He creates his own evil and calls it sin. But one of the benefits of turning your eyes away from all that is unlovely, of course you should be aware, you know, and I think you reached this point, I called it going beyond conspiracy, is when you know that you can watch anything, you can read anything, you can pick it apart in less than a minute and find the frauds in it and the lies. But it's also very important to remember that yourself as a co-creator is really what's going to alter the fabric of the matrix. And they cannot understand art. You know, as Terence McKenna said, put your art pedal to the metal, because they can't comprehend it. It's the one safe place in the world you can be and really do your best work. You know, and we're seeing that come to life with the huge alternative media that's going on. You know, you can use a label of truth music, or at least artists who, you know, are writing to teach people about different things, but also always remember that you yourself as a co-creator have all the power of the universe to create. And when you turn your eyes inward, you know, the sense-based man looks at the world with his outer eyes and listens to it with his outer ears, but the genius looks inward toward his soul, and that's the place where we really bring the really killer stuff out into the world. And yeah, I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I've noticed a difference. So
I think they call that introspection. I think that's what they call introspection, when a man can look inside himself. And, it sort of comes down to thy own self be true. When you can look inside of you, that's where all the goodness comes. And when your heart's right, your soul's right, your mind's right, everything starts resonating. I've been going through Santos will attest to it. We've known each other just a short time, probably about 3 months. And I'm not the same Peter that stepped in 3 months ago. I'm going through massive changes, and I feel it every day. And it's a beautiful thing, because every day is a new experience on a whole different level, because the eyes are open, the ears are open, but I get to look within to not be without.
Exactly, and they call that also intuition, because you're into it, or in spirit, inspirited, because you're in the spirit. So the N words are great, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Robert,
it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I've got a question for you. Perihelion and apohelion. I was thinking about the helical vortex solar system, and I was trying to tackle the problem of apohelion and perihelion in this solar system model. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it would just be basically our difference in our positions in our mutual helical trajectories. I think there's I did create a memorial page for Dr. Batt, on my website, and there I gave some examples, from Naked Eye Planets is where we got the information from an academic background to show like the rings of Saturn, for instance. It's a good, easy way to visualize it. According to them, those rings are wobbling massively in a 27-year orbit, roughly, And really what it is it's the difference between our position in the helical trajectory and theirs, because we're going above and below the equator of the sun in these huge helical trajectories, and so are all the other planets. So therefore, there are a lot of earthbound illusions when we look out at the solar system, because we can't see it as it really is. We're earthbound. But once you know what's going on, you can explain these processes. And if you look at the rings of Saturn, you'll see at one point we're looking down upon them, and at another point we're looking up, from below. So
exactly.
Saturn's not out there wobbling like crazy. What's happening? It's just our mutual positions in the helical trajectories which follow the sun.
Right. So would perihelion be perhaps when the Earth is sort of below the equator at that peak there, and then apohelion would be when it's above the equator, sort of a little bit more distant in the vortex from the sun?
Well, really, there is no perihelion and aphelion. Those are from ellipses, and ellipses don't exist. That's Kepler's take on it, because it's not really no different than Ptolemy. Ptolemy had his epicycles, and hey, he can make it all work out on paper, but it wasn't true. After a couple thousand years of 1,500 years or something of epicycles and Ptolemy's work, Kepler came along and changed that, and basically, talked about ellipses. But as in Russellian science, we're taught that, there's only circles, there's only rings. And those helical trajectories, if you were to look down the cone of the vortex solar system and you saw that the planets trailing behind, you would see circles being created by the helical trajectories, not ellipses. So you have to kind of just throw out, Kepler and Newton. Basically Walter Russell did. He went through and debunked, Newton, for instance, and Einstein, but also Kepler, because he pointed out that ellipses do not exist. So we can't even use that language, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or orbits, for that matter,
Yeah, for sure. Kate?
Because we're not going around the sun.
It's okay. I just wanted to ask a question, if that's cool.
Shoot away.
I'd love to have a perspective, because Dr. Bat rocked my world, baby. Oh yeah, and literally, before you guys came on, I kind of think a little outside of a few boxes, and I just wanted to get you guys, because you're way out there. I love it. Out where I live, it's cool. Santo and Peter and the rest of us, it's getting crowded on this cloud. When I was talking to Santo earlier on, I got the tie-in visual of. Do you remember the movie Apollo 13?
Right.
When they're on their way back to Earth, and they didn't have any computers, so they didn't have any of their science, right? And they had to do a 30-second burn, and it had to be exact, otherwise they'd skim off the atmosphere, so to speak. And they had to manually control the gimbal and of course they're operating in a 3D out there, because they have nothing to reference, right? So what they were doing when they did the firing, what they had was this wobble that was going on until they finally got it centered on their target. And that's kind of, I saw the Earth and the solar system, the sun is, ripping through this beautiful primordial goo of the mind, and we have Polaris, that we have got this precessional wobble, as it would seem, right? And I just wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah. That'd be an illusion.
Okay, that's what I'm saying about trying to get the mind right to get rid of that illusional wobble, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So basically what's happening is the whole solar system is wobbling, because the sun moves like a serpent in 3 dimensions as it spirals around the galactic ecliptic above and below it. So the problem has been is people have assumed that Kepler was right, and we're moving these ellipses and orbits and stuff, and that's not happening. So that's not part of their understanding of the true motions of the solar system. So basically, from an Earth-bound perspective, it appears that our axis is inclined, and it also appears that we're wobbling, but that's not the case at all.
Yeah,
the poles of all the planets are parallel to the sun, and we're basically following the sun, and the sun is wobbling, and that's what creates the effect of the so-called wobbling, the precession of the equinoxes, which is actually more accurate to call it the precession of the zodiacal constellations, because that's what's happening. Yeah, I think Dr. Batt did a really good job on a video that he put up on YouTube before he left this plane, and he shows you how the sun moves with the Earth following it in relationship to the zodiacal, the ring of constellations, and that's what changes our perspective, not the wobbling of the axis or the inclination.
Yeah, or no, I wasn't referencing the Earth wobble. It's got nothing to do with what I was referencing was the sun. The whole solar system is doing that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Okay, we're on the same page. I just want to make sure I wasn't speaking of the Earth. I was speaking of Apollo 13. 13 is the divine, right? And Apollo is the sun god. So,
right, and I don't. To be honest with you, I don't buy any of that Apollo bullshit. I think it's all fake.
Yeah, it's just a reference.
I really do. I think it was all faked, every last bit of it. So.
I love these guys.
I don't even pay attention to NASA and Apollo. NASA, never a straight answer.
Straight answer, yeah.
And they're the biggest bullshitters imaginable, They've kept us in the box, in science in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, but Robert, I'd like to go back to that. They say, well, on January the 4th, the Earth is supposedly 4 million miles closer to the Sun, and its opposite, July 4th, Independence Day, is what they call apohelion, and it's 3 or 4 million miles further away from the Sun. So with the vortex model, can you explain that? I'm sort of having difficulty wrapping my mind around that.
How are they making their measurements? What is their measurements? Are they using straight lines? And yes, of course they're using straight lines. You can't have a straight line in space. There's only curved paths. So even the distances they claim that they know about the Earth, they're false, because the universe does not work like their little trigonometric designs on their papers. They can't sit there and just draw these straight lines from one place to another, because you can't get there in a straight line. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's only
Santos.
Beautiful. Go, Matt. Yeah, thank you.
Could I add in a little mental exercise people can use to envision the helical trajectories in the spiral vortice solar system model? Everything moves in this fashion, and generally it's a two-dimensional versus three-dimensional ability to conceive the thought process that it takes to free us from these mind viruses, if you will, or these knowledge viruses that are passed on from academia. And basically the two-dimensional wave is a straight line across a piece of paper, linear line from point A, which is on the left, to point B on the right. You have a wave that goes 180 degrees above and a wave that goes 180 degrees below. That's a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object. Now, if you consider sound, let's take a speaker. The reason, if you're at a rock concert and you're standing in front of a stack of speakers and your ear is about a foot away from the speaker, it's going to blow your eardrum out. And do you know why that is?
No.
Because the pressure level is what you're dealing with at that range is an extremely tightly compacted and dense spiral motion. And so it's almost dense enough that you can feel the pounding of the kick drum come through a speaker. But it does not move in a two-dimensional motion away from the speaker. It leaves the speaker in a very tightly wound spiral. And then if you're a mile away from the speaker, the spiral gets so big that you can't even hear it anymore. So that's the way to envision yourself standing on the sun and you're looking to Pluto. You would see Mercury doing an extremely small circle, Venus doing a slightly bigger one, the Earth doing a slightly bigger spiral, Mars doing a slightly bigger one than the Earth, and so on and so on. The more these planets begin to spiral, the more they begin to unwind and they start throwing off rings. And because the motion is so extreme and that's basically what we're seeing in the effects that we call an electron, which are actually emission products of atoms. So we see very many electrons in, say, uranium, and what you're seeing there is an extremely unwound condition of matter, and it's very deadly. So that's one of Russell's biggest things, was we should have never used nuclear energy as a world fuel, because these are dead and dying elements that should be left in their place. They're good and safe in the places that they occur naturally. It's only when we dig them up and light them on fire on the surface of the earth that we endanger all of humanity. So, I mean, if anyone had any sense in the nuclear industry, they would put their bank account numbers away and their profits pads down and realize that they're killing everything on the planet. And if they don't stop, we're not going to have a planet, because eventually we're going to lose containment in our atmosphere and the planet could explode. I mean, we're dealing with a major thing here, and basically, not to go too far off course, but that's when you understand spiral motion, you begin to see it in everything, and even the waves of your TV, they don't move in sine waves; they move in spirals. I mean, everything is spiral. All motion is curved in all directions, spiral. So it's quite simple, really.
That's
right.
why
To get back to Dr. Batt's model, the validation of Dr. Batt's model, it's pretty easy to validate it, because if, in fact, the outer planets were going around the sun, and we were all going around the sun, then they would be on the opposite side of the sun for many months, maybe 6 months of the year or more, because their motions are so slow. It take many, many years to go around the sun, supposedly, but yet they're only invisible for a few weeks of the month. So how is that possible? It's impossible on a flat pancake solar, the heliocentric model given to us by Copernicus, who was also a Catholic military priest. So we can't forget that either. You must make a note of that and integrate that into your understanding of it, and how it's, the Catholic Church is behind the biggest level of mind control for the last couple thousand years that there is in the Western world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I tend to, being a musician, when you pick up a guitar, the strings are still. There's no sound.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you strike that string, all of a sudden a beautiful warm tone emanates from the vibration. So this is what the lower-brained, lower-minded scientist, the consensus scientist, is studying that effect, whereas he doesn't understand that all sounds come from stillness and go back to stillness.
Yeah, the stillness.
Yeah,
is
all
the
motions.
Yeah, the stillness is the fulcrum of omnipotent energy. Everything comes from that fulcrum of stillness. And what I've seen over and over, Santos, is that it's just amazing how many musicians are attracted to Russellian science. Because musicians are really wave mechanics. They're ones that manipulate waves, right? And they get it. It just blows my mind what a large percentage of the people that I talk to that study Russellian science have a musical background.
Yeah, I just had a question on the 432 hertz music. Which is the correct one? Because we've got Leonard Horowitz teaching that it's 520 something, and then we've got the 432 hertz. Can you talk to that?
I subscribe to the 432. I believe that's it,
Yeah, 432 is the pitch of A in its natural state, resonant with the heart, and the 528 is the note of C played in the 432 frequency range. I do all of my tunings in that frequency.
You're also a musician.
Oh, yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter, so Santo.
See? You just can't get away from it,
No, you can't. Sorry. I'll post you guys my links later, and you can enjoy my wave bending.
Love to hear.
By the way, guys, can you give us? We'll get back to Horowitz, but just quickly interject your music sites where people can go and listen to your music. Because Kate, I had someone write to me yesterday saying, I love the introductory song to your Syncretism. Can you please get me Kate's archive so I can listen to the rest of Kate's music. So, Kate, can you go first, and then we'll go to Robert, please?
Okay, well, I'll take the compliment because the gentleman that does the intro song is not me, but we write exactly in the same vein of things, which is pretty cool. I've had many people. I listen to it, and it's right in my pitch. It's right in my actual chord formings and everything else. So they'd have to contact Diatra directly at freedomreigns.us to get that particular song. And if you want to get my stuff, it can be linked. It's linked through my loveovermind.wordpress.com website, and I'll post it up on Facebook. For those that want it, they can get me at, this is the best way, Santo, through Facebook, kate.rene.5, that's KATE.RENE.5. And they can always email me too. I mean, I've got thousands of songs. I didn't write them for me. I wrote them for everybody, so they belong to all. They came from the all. They go back to the all. It's beautiful.
Excellent. And Matt and Robert, please, and include also your websites where people, I mean, you've got a site together called thesecretoflight.com. What an exquisite resource for learning the best Russellian science. And then you've got your own. So can you share those?
Yeah, and that's also, you'll find a lot of Matt, we produce the music for our videos, so you'll hear our music in those videos as well. We've written new music together. But my website is Free Energy and Free Thinking, and you can just Google that. It'll be the first hit you get. And to get to my CD, which is free in MP3, just go to the bottom of that page, the home page, and there's a link to my CD, which is called Crooked Trail, and it's right there. You can just, all the songs are MP3 and accessible.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and mine is Matt Presti, MattPresti.com, and I have a music page there, along with players that you can listen to all of it for free. So, and I will gladly give anybody music as well. So just email me.
Yeah, that's cool. You guys are all beautiful. The same. It's beautiful, eh? We give it away.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. We never sell our souls to Hollywood.
Yeah, well, that's me. I was signed in Nashville, and I couldn't sell out, so I walked. I call it song cash. I know it's nuts. Anyone that's chasing their a dream like that or chasing their tail. Sorry, my kids aren't for sale. They belong to the universe. Yeah, totally. We're on the same page.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Illumination is beautiful, brothers. Illumination is beautiful.
Absolutely.
It is. Now, Leonard Horowitz. So who was going to make a comment about Leonard Horowitz? Because he's really, really adamant about his other tuning, isn't he?
It wasn't me.
I'm not too familiar with the tuning about how you go actually about retuning a guitar to fit those frequencies. I mean, I tend to love the key of A. I tend to write a lot of music in the key of A as well as the key of C, and but I have written in minor keys and other things. But I mean, certainly there's aspects to that whole thing that I've yet to learn. And
it's setting the pitch of A to 432 hertz instead of the 440A. You retune it down 8 hertz to 432. And then you tune your guitar or whatever from there. You can do that on a keyboard if you've got the pitch shifting.
Right, I got you.
A chromatic tuner will do it. You can just knock it down 8 cents.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I do. I do it by ear, actually. Yeah.
But what I find interesting is if you consider, too, the music of the spheres and how it relates to our progression. And one of the things Rob and I talked about that we're still, not 100% sure, but it certainly seems from all the different aspects we've been able to line up that a good explanation for 2012 in that we're moving toward the ecliptic from the southern hemisphere to cross the ecliptic plane of the Milky Way into the northern hemisphere. And as we approach, we wind up tighter and tighter. And in that tighter winding, we see an increase of heat, which is the solar system-wide warming that we're seeing and that our sun's experiencing, because their spiral trajectories are getting tighter and tighter. which means the emissions will be more and more. So you can just look at the past 100 years and the explosiveness with which man has just really just created and transformed his world from not being able to fly to being able to fly anywhere, including into space, from not being able to communicate only by letter and postman on a horse to being able to transmit a tweet to millions of people around the world. I mean, what we saw, say, in just 2006 with the Haiti development, I think they said within approximately 10 to 15 minutes, 3/4 of the world was aware. Would have probably taken 100 years to learn about 200 years ago. So.
Yeah. It's winding up. Yeah, Terence McKenna spoke about that with time wave zero, with his time wave graph, the I Ching.
Yeah, indeed, and it all seems to correlate to one another. So, perhaps as we wind in tighter, and I'm not saying that this definitely negates or takes anything away from Horowitz, but if we're winding tighter toward the ecliptic plane, then perhaps a retuning was necessary. I'm just saying that maybe might be beneficial to consider all angles as to why there was a retuning. Because I don't know, the discord...
Well, 432, the original tuning, that things were tuned to 432 historically.
Yeah, and then they changed it.
That's the
55.
point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
the reason why I'm asking you guys is I was hoping you were more knowledgeable on the subject than myself, because I've done quite a bit of research, and there's a guy out there who's now putting videos against Leonard Horowitz, teaching that Leonard is promoting a very harmful frequency, and I'm not taking sides on either camp because I'm not versed in this knowledge enough, but I know that I believe you can go way back to the great Greek philosophers like Pythagoras that subscribed and taught the 432 hertz.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there. I was going to say, I did a lot of research on the Horowitz site, and the only thing I question on it, I want to get your guys' opinion on it. Everyone's been, in my opinion, has been using the wrong pi of the 3.141592.7, et cetera, where actually it's 22/7 for the real pi. In terms of, because I've done some experimenting with using pi, because it's a continuous sequence, infinite. That's why you can't measure the area of a circle, because it's actually a spiral. In 2D, it looks like a circle, but it's actually 3D spiral. Yeah, so it's, Len did a great job, and what he was trying to bring back was the tuning of the heart. And what they did, the 440 is the tuning of the mind. That's why they changed it in 55.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, now...
I think it was standardized in the 1950s, wasn't it? The 440 tuning? It's a recent development.
Yeah, it was changed in... there's some conflicting ideas on this, but one of the people who was putting it forward in 1938 for the change was Joseph Goebbels himself. I don't know if that's factual. Right. But it was an American former OSS officer that put it forth in 1953, and it finally went to, I love this, right? Some lawmaker tells me how I'm going to tune my guitar. Are you serious?
Right.
I'll tune it to whatever I want, and I keep it in 432. But they did that in 55. It was, again, there's that mind control thing that you guys have been talking about, the mass consciousness versus the unity consciousness. Yeah. Anyway, it's madness. But it's all good. Hey, listen, we're good.
Yeah, because we're creating a new creation. Now, guys, I'd love to dismantle some of the poo-poo theories getting around, like, string theory and the nuclear atom. I know, Robert, you can dismantle those in just seconds. So let's do that, because I think that's quite important too, because this illusion that they're selling us, that we're going to eventually find the unified field, the unified theory, to bring Newtonian and quantum physics together, marry them together with some kind of an explanation. How does Russell expose that?
Yeah. Yeah, atomic suicide was basically a diatribe against the nuclear atom, but nobody's really taken it apart as beautifully as D.V. Larson in his book, The Case Against the Nuclear Atom, which is free online for reading for anyone who wants to check it out. And it's a debunking of the historical development of the so-called nuke atom, which is, it never made any sense. Actually, when I was in college, the first semester I went to college, I studied chemistry, Chem 1A, and after 6 weeks, our professors just said, look, this nuclear theory of the atom we're teaching you, it's a fraud, It's just a model. Don't believe it, it's not true. And here it is 36 years later, and they're still talking about the same crap, So there is no nuclear atom. There's no such thing as electrons in orbital shells and all this stuff. String theory and quantum mechanics take it for granted the nuke atom exists. So they fall also, with it. There's no validity to these theories. They're just what they do. This is planned. You have to understand that the people that run this racket know the real science. They knew about Tesla. They knew about Tesla creating free energy in 1892. They suppressed him. They suppressed Schauberger. They suppressed anybody that comes along that eats into that wants to destroy their corporate profits, the massive astronomical profits that they're making. So they know, they know what the real science is. So it's very easy for them to promote the false science, and therefore you have idiots like Heisenberg who gets a Nobel Prize for his uncertainty principle, which is based on a nuclear atom that doesn't exist. Or you get Stephen Hawking, who gets a Nobel Prize for describing the swirling motions around a black hole, which does not exist either. Yet these guys are the guys that are getting all the dough and all the fame and, claimed as geniuses. Because the powers that be want this slave system of us pumping gas and burning coal and running nuke plants and fighting wars to stay in place as long as possible, because that's where they make all their dough, and that's how they control us.
Yeah, their Nobel Prizes would be as invalid as Barack Obama's, wouldn't it, the morons?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or Albert Gore, I mean, what a joke,
Yeah.
Global warming crap,
Yeah, all these smoke blowers pontificating and putting themselves at the top of the pecking order with some sort of goofy award, or I don't know who awards these awards. I got a naval yardarm to hang them all on it. I mean, they're nuts.
Yeah, and when they declared to everyone in August that they found the Higgs boson particle, one of the comments below was one of the scientists saying, "Since we've done this, it means Nobel Prizes all around. Good job, guys." It's all they live for is this hero worship, this false ego, constructs that just all they do is suck up entitlements and rub elbows in the good old boys club. And the Higgs boson, if you really want to get into that, they're looking for the God particle. Well, this is the whole point in the difference between mind knowing and sense-based groping in the dark. Particles, aren't the cause of anything. I mean, they're simply motions of electricity that mind creates. And all atoms, all suns, galaxies, planets are under the control of the Creator's omniscient mind. So, what we control is what we make. And what it's ultimately doing is like you said earlier about the guitar. You strum the guitar, it lives for a series it lives for a short time in a vibration, and then it returns to stillness. Well, what they're doing is they're trying to find the cause of the motion of the guitar string in the guitar string itself. There's a particle in the guitar string that makes it move. They don't stop to consider the absurdity of the whole claim, and not to mention the colossal waste of money, which could have gone to much better things, So it's a shell game. It's just a total shell game.
Higgs boson particle does not exist. It's
or the Large Hadron Collider. I mean, it's their hard-on for their own Nobel, egos to stroke themselves with. It's just a complete, utter waste of money.
Yeah, in fact, if anybody's got any doubts about what we're saying, go to Beavis Day's site, Physics in the Age of Fakery. He shows you how these Nobel Prizes are being dished out right now to all these frauds. These guys are like the Kobe satellite. These people are validating these false things like Big Bangs and black holes and dark matter and all this crap. using fraud, and they've been busted. You know, Beavis Day has taken them apart. You know,
he's incredible.
The Physics in the Age of Fakery. That's all. Just type that into Google and you go right to his site.
Yeah. No different than the global warming scam they're perpetrating on the masses. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Well, that comes from the Club of Rome. They invented that crock in the late 80s or early 90s. They invented that. The Club of Rome, folks. The Club of Rome. Who's this club? What are these Bilderbergers and clubs? And basically, they're just a bunch of. I believe they're pretty good at pedophilia. I know that. That's for sure. That's how they get seduced to be CEOs of corporations, because they get awarded with plenty of little boys. They love boys.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're monsters. No. They're not human beings at all.
If there is any truth to global warming, I'll defer to Russell's Atomic Suicide, where he wrote that the use of atomic fission, and this was even written before they started the massive aerial hydrogen bomb tests, that very well could be the responsible thing that is what's responsible for, if there is global warming, it would be caused by this nuclear use.
There's not global warming. Global warming doesn't exist. The global warming does not exist. Look, the entire solar system is going through changes right now. All the surfaces of all the planets are heating up. It's because we're approaching the galactic ecliptic. It has nothing to do with us burning, so-called fossil fuels, which they are not,
I understand that, but still, what Atomic Suicide says, from Walter's words, if you want to know, is that man, through his continued use of nuclear power, will eventually give this planet a fever for which it will not recover, and it will eventually explode. And that's what nuclear fission does. Particles in the atmosphere are extremely expanded particles of motion. That's why if you took a nickel-sized piece, the size of a nickel of uranium, and put it in your pocket, you'd be dead in 10 minutes, because it tears holes through your cellular fabric. And now imagine trillions upon trillions upon trillions of these particles of strontium up in the upper atmosphere. What does that do to the planet? It expands the atmosphere.
Well, there's not nuclear power plants on the rest of the planet, so it's invalidated by that, The truth of the matter is this has nothing to do with what they claim it has to do.
Right.
And that's the problem.
The very real danger of an exploding planet through continued nuclear use is really what got me into doing this research. I mean, because I have children, and I want to, and I feel for all the other people in the world who have children. And I think that still is the number one thing that's threatening our world today, is our continued use of nuclear power.
Well, apparently Edward Teller was, this whole chemtrails thing is his design, and the cover story is that it was to prevent global warming, all the spraying of the strontium and barium and aluminum on us, and other toxic crap that they're spraying on us.
Good God, how insane. It's insanity. In fact, Emerson, it was, who said, the earth is an abiding place for God's insane angels. Yeah, it's insanity. They are insane. They are absolutely insane.
Well, Edward Teller was a madman. George Bush gave him the greatest prize, the biggest medal you can possibly get, in the United States. So, I mean, he played his part. He was an insane madman. He was Dr. Strangelove. That's who they modeled Dr. Strangelove after.
Well, Edward Teller.
Yeah, psychopath. The guy wanted to put up in Alaska. He wanted to excavate harbors, put 20 nukes, side by side, and just blow them all off at once to create a harbor. And wanted to create another Panama Canal, just string 100 nukes, side by side and blow them all off. And he's the asshole that was behind our nuke program. That was blowing up nukes 30, 40, 50 miles high in the atmosphere, you know? Just absolute insanity.
Wow.
Yep. One thing Walter said in his life, this was in the biography that was written about him called A Worthy Messenger. His gardener, Charles Hardy, had a talk with him on the porch, and he asked Walter what happened to the planet between Mars and Jupiter. And Russell said it did not explode from natural causes. So that always stuck with me, you know, and perhaps we're all, you know, reincarnated to try to get it right this time, and it certainly appears that we have a long way to go to get it right. So.
Yeah, look, I was reading a beautiful astrological book the other day called Bible Astrology, because that's what the Bible is, and my syncretism videos prove that. But the book is by Lyman E. Stowe, and he calls it Stowe's Bible Astrology, the Bible founded on astrology, and it was printed early 1900. There you go, 1907. Anyway, he says there on page 39, he says, "The sun is our proper home, or the true Garden of Eden from which we were cast out, and we cannot get back until we conquer all selfish and foolish desires. And the sun is the flaming sword, turning every way which the Bible speaks of." So you can understand, and the philosophers concur with this. This is Hermetic teaching also, that we must ascend through the sun. And so Earth has been like an abiding place of cast out creatures, but we are children of the sun. All it requires is for us to remember that, and the path and the portal will be open to us. But quite possibly, I wonder how that fourth planet between, it's fifth actually, between Mars and Jupiter was destroyed. Possibly that was part of the fall. I'm wondering. Any thoughts?
That's very possible. I mean, what would cause a planet to explode? I mean, certainly, you know, that's the problem with nuclear power, in my opinion. We're playing a game that we're not tending the fire. We're not taking responsibility for the things we light on fire and can't put out. Has any of you ever caused a fire in the woods before and lost control of it? You know what it feels like to lose control of a fire, how it makes your soul barren and empty inside, to suddenly realize you no longer have control over a process that you started. It's very humbling, and that was a vision I had in 2010, and I saw in my vision a mile-long line of Japanese men carrying buckets. This was November of 2010, and dumping the buckets of seawater on a hole next to the ocean. And 3 months later, you know, Fukushima, and these things are still burning. Chernobyl is still burning as we speak. They had never put the reaction out. It's melted down into the ground. And the problem with that is they don't know how to put it out. And so if you don't know how to put something out, what would make you start it in the first place?
Good question.
Idiocy.
Good
and
question.
they're doing it for the money. The only answer, you know, Obama wants to build 50 more nuke plants in the United States by 2030. You know, we almost lost 2 nuke plants in the Sandy storm, you know, in New York. And Chernobyl still burns. What do they do to contain it? They build a giant concrete sarcophagus the size of 10 football fields around it or so, and that's supposed to contain this thing. But the problem is these electrons of radioactivity will eventually pierce through the concrete. So all the cylinders they built, the concrete cylinders that were each a cost of, you know, $25 million a piece back in the 60s, they put these spent fuel rods in and then dumped them in the ocean. But the problem is the concrete cylinders they built are only going to last to house these rods about 50 to 150 years before the extreme motion of these radioactive elements begins to break through the concrete. It's just the whole idea of this thing is just absurd. And if anything blows the planet up unnaturally, I would say it's an incorrect use of electricity, of man's understanding of world fuels. I mean, or massive war. You know, a massive war could do it too.
Yeah, just tied into all the money horse. Yeah, I've been following the money trail all across the spectrum, from big meta, FDA, big energy, big pharma. Just follow the energy trail. That's follow the money trail. These scumbags, they're only about the lucre. We've had alternative energy sources where they buy up the patents, or they give them sort of like the Poe carburetor back in 1935. They gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. Sort of like the gentleman who created the water car, had the technology to run tanks on water, but no, we can't have none of that, so they disappear him. I mean, you know, it's incredible. We've had all these alternatives at our fingertips for hundreds of years, and the scum-sucking bottom feeders, and that's what they are, the scum-sucking bottom feeders, have stepped their busy asses in, and the control mechanism. He who controls the power, I guess, controls the game. So, I mean, you know, you got to love it. It's plain as the nose on my face that you can see this scam. It's prevalent. Like I say, I've followed the money trail on all accounts, and that's all it comes down to, folks. It's just about the damn money, just like the bonds in court, you know.
What they
do the scam on the sun, claiming it's a nuclear furnace, you know. It's just a theory.
Yeah, what a bunch of crackheads. Yeah, what are these people smoking? Because I need to share some of that pipe.
Right, exactly. The sun is not a nuclear furnace. It's the electrical processes which give it its form. It has nothing to do. They have these insane temperatures of 30 million degrees in the corona and 15 million at the core and then 5,000 at the surface. I mean, their models they make no sense to begin with, you know.
Yeah, Rob, our friend the atom, you know, that says the Earth just happens to be close enough to the sun to be heated enough by it that it's not an ice ball.
How
hilarious.
And the truth of the matter is, it's like space is freezing cold.
Yeah, if you go 100 miles away from the sun, you're going to freeze in space. So give me a break.
Exactly.
How does this heat travel through space, as they say? It's impossible.
It does not. It does not travel through space, nor does light. It repeats itself away from it.
Hey, gentlemen, it's just like the fossil fuel scam. It's what is it? Abiotic. It's renewable, and it always has been.
Exactly.
Got more oil than God over the northern Alaskan slopes that they tapped and capped back in 1975. We got more oil than God, and the scum-sucking bottom feeders create these so-called oil shortages, and it's the biggest scam. My brother-in-law was in the oil patch for 30 years. I asked him, I says, hey, Jim, what did they teach you oil was when you went to college? And he's educated, man. Dinosaur turds, give me a freaking break, dude. I says, here, I got an article you can read. This will change your freaking paradigm. And he read it, and he goes, you know what, you're right. I says, yeah, it's not dead, decaying friggin' leaves. It's not dino shit. I mean, come on, snap the fuck out of it, dude.
When have you ever seen an animal turn into a puddle of oil? You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah. We're all carbon-based products. I mean, like the Corexic they were spraying down up off the ocean down there in the Gulf Coast, and it's attaching to all the other carbon neutral which is a human body. So that's why these people are bleeding internally from their organs and stuff. But they're not talking about that. I have a friend who's in Cali right now, California, who left Louisiana because of the insanity. And they don't talk about it on TV. It's sort of like the Fukushima thing. We just don't, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Yet they've turned off every dadgum monitor in the USA Inc. So, folks, come on. I mean, it's time to wake up and pay attention. These people are not playing with a full deck, and it's all scams and lies, the whole damn thing. Anyways, I get excited. I forgot to take my medication today.
They've also left the fuel on top of the reactor.
I got all this pent-up frustration. I haven't talked for an hour, you know.
Tony, have we got you there?
Yes, mate. I was just pointing someone out in a lot of the research that I've done as well. We've got over 700 nuclear plants out there, and in most cases, all of the spent uranium, plutonium, etc., a lot of it has been stored on top of the fusion reactors.
Yep.
So if anything happens to the reactors, like the diesel fails, or you can't deliver diesel, or there's a power cut, then what's going to happen is the water will boil off and the whole thing will go into meltdown. They're sitting there as time bombs. And the question is, well, if we've had free energy all along, even though it has been hidden, why the heck have they built them? Well, that gives you the answer. It's like because they wanted them to be built. Now, why would they want to do that, right? Now they've got pharmaceuticals, they've got chemtrails, they've got fluoride, they've got poisons, they've got GMOs, they've got all these things trying to keep the population levels down. Well, what's the next best thing to keep all the populations down for good? Well, it's nuclear. So in order to get enough nuclear into the atmosphere to make sure that the population never becomes conscious again, you need to nuke the heck out of the atmosphere so that the people with the technologies that are not necessarily living on this planet, and the guys that are listening know where we're going with this, we're kept down here in this cesspit, and they're away with exploring the universe with the kit they got out there. And
right.
That's my take on it.
Yeah, it's quite an insane setup, but that's about to change, folks. Definitely about to change. We are spiralling towards that lovely date, and the lights are going to be turned on. So let's prepare ourselves. There's only one thing that we need, and that is consciousness, which is the king, which is what the universe is. Universal mind. It is conscious. It's consciousness that underpins all things. The universal mind thinking, as Russell put it.
And love. Giving so
and love.
Yeah, there you go. Throw out the love to the universe. It comes back, folks.
That's right.
I like to say we should shift from consciousness to prociousness because there's enough cons in the world already.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
And, you know, the captains of this ship have run Lady Liberty aground, and it is time for a mutiny.
Yeah, absolutely. Turn your backs to the fictions. They are poisonous, and they have a date limit, folks. You know, an expiry date. So
cool.
Don't get involved. You will suffer the consequences. Time to lose the world in you. Lose it. In other words, the fictional world of civilization, as they call it, I believe.
Yeah, they call it that today. I wouldn't call it that, but all right. You know what, guys? I'm absolutely loving what you guys are talking about, and in the very near future, if you're not doing anything Friday, I'd love for you to join us on Freedom Reigns again on Tony's show. He does the Cosmic Blueprint, and I'd love to go over some of my own research in the spiraling of the words WHIRRES, because everything is phi ratio, words included. So I'd love to invite you guys onto that if you're into it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we have Mark Passio on Wednesday, so that's definitely going to be an interesting night. Full moon too.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, indeed.
You guys rock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and likewise, I've also offered to have you guys more on. So let us know. Just knock on the door, and you've got plenty of airtime with us, folks, because this is the best content of information. True science. Science comes from knowledge and to know, and we need to be delivered from this world of opinions and thinking and oh, look, I've got an opinion. It's important.
An educated guess.
Yeah.
Right? That's what theory is.
You got to feel it. Can I tell you guys what the word love means? Beautiful word. It's
well, the Russellian science is giving so that giving may give again.
Yeah, with the power of spirit, which is L. I'm going conceptual here with what, again, everything I tell everyone, everything out there that you're looking at is the effect. That is the illusion. Out there, you will find clues only. The answers you will find within. Now, how close are you paying attention to the syncretism of all things? So the word love is the letter L, which is the sound of L. You musicians will get this. L, the power of spirit, is Ra-El, and you have O, which is the infinite creation. I already said you can't measure the area of a 2D circle because it's a spiral. And you have VE, which is Ve, which is short form for verily, which is truth. So it is the power of spirit operating in the creation of truth, and the truth shall set you free. Love, baby.
The one Prince.
Truly. Kate's our master wordsmith. She really gets it.
preciousness and love. There you go.
Absolutely. I've got a lot of neologisms. I don't know, maybe I was Buckminster Fuller in a past life. Who the hell knows? But yeah, just like you take the difference between everything that they love to do is just a visionary. It's like creation versus evolution. Well, in 11th grade, I made up a word like 4 years ago, crevolution, which means the constantly changing creation. It's great. You just marry things together, and you come up. I liken it to, instead of riding on the seesaw on either end, which means you need somebody else to play the game with you, and they're always happy to play the game. And as long as you're on one end or the other of the seesaw, you're never going to be centered. You're always going to be polarized. I'm Democrat, I'm Republican, I'm pro-life, I'm anti-war or pro-war. The trick of all of this is to develop the triality instead of a duality way of thinking about the world. Find the center of the seesaw. Stand on the center so the damn thing doesn't move anymore, and then you can see both ends for what they really are.
Hey, it's ironic you talk about the center because we've been digging in deep this past weekend because when you center everything on documents, it's you're in like a neutral position. So when you deal with the bottom feeders in their neutral position, they stand a mano with you administratively in that document, and you don't recognize the scumbags, i.e., I don't care if he's calling himself a judge, a clerk, or a DA. When you operate as another man to another man, and it's all about how you put it on the paper. That's why they put everything on the left-hand side of the document. That's fiction land. It's no man's land. You're considered a dead entity, and so that's how they get you to traverse. But that's all right. We're wrapping this up, and we're all going to put it in a beautiful red box. I know you don't understand where I'm coming from on this, but Kate understands where I come from, and I think Santos gets it pretty much. But we've uncovered a plethora of beautiful stuff that we're going to bring them a mano to our world on another footing where they have no recourse. It's sort of a beautiful thing. So this is where I live. I'm on a different page. Peter's on his own planet. But,
no, all good, Peter. That's very encouraging to hear that, because we've been boggled down in paperwork, bureaucratic bullshit paperwork by these morons and buffoons called judges and attorneys and lawyers, and they love it because they stand to profit. And what you've uncovered has busted them forever. And they will have to go and get a decent. They will have to go and get a decent job from now on, where they can really contribute.
Yep, that's the objective of what I'm bringing forward here very, very soon. And I'm going to the mat, and I'm hoping within the next 7 to 14 days I will have a formatted process for anybody to operate in their private capacity as a man against the other schmucks as a man. And you get to create your own orders as a man, because a man is the king of his own castle, and he doesn't ask for permission, he gives orders. And Kate knows where I'm coming from. Like I say, we've uncovered a plethora of beautiful information, and it's, my goodness, it's within their system, and it's all about that stupid-ass red box. They never expected us to find this, and we uncovered it right in their insurance scam, because it's one big insurance scam. It's one big LLC. And if it's true that the FDIC and the other parties in the game are all flying without a net, i.e. they have no insurance, they are default, they're sitting naked, we're really going to have some fun now, because they're all standing in their full unlimited commercial liability on a whole different level. So now we get to really have some fun, and that's what we're fixing to have. So, folks, it's stand fast, and maybe on Monday I can peel back the curtain to the next layer, because it's time to go to the mat and bust the scumbags where they live. I'm doing it in love and honor. It's all good. They don't have any love and honor, but I'm going to bring them forward in love and honor, because they're not going to get away with the bullshit anymore. Anyways,
I have a couple of callers here. I'm not sure if they wanted to ask questions or whatever. I just wanted to make sure things are flying here. Did you want me to check and see?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys go ahead. I'll screen them.
All right. But, it's been tricks for kids, gentlemen, for our entire lives. We've been duped on so many different levels. we never thought to look beyond the pale. So, everything comes from within. That when you look to within, then you can operate without. These people, they've always put the onus on us, and now it's changed.
Yeah, folks, one of the most important things that you can get from the show today, and both Robert and Matt have been very good in helping us here, is that if we go to the still center in our hearts, there is a stillness there where all things exist. And the controllers would just love to pull us away from that center and to live in the dualistic world. Be a Republican, be a Democratic. What about the third option, the neutral option of just being completely out of that dualism and find the center?
Hey, Santos, Walter Russell, he used to say that he'd take these walks in nature, and that's where he would do it. And I have to say it's the same for me. If I go out and do walks in the morning and I'm by myself and I'm not talking to anybody, that's when I find that center the easiest. So I would encourage people to get out and walk in the morning, or whenever you can, just get out in nature and walk, and forget about everything and just tune into yourself, into that the conscious mind of the Creator that dwells within you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's my meditation. When people write to me and say, "What do you do, Santos, for meditation?" Well, I just say, well, look, take your shoes off, find a dirt track, go up the hill, and just love nature. And you watch what happens. I come back down every day from the hill out the back of my house. I come back down with my little doggy, and I've got about 10 epiphanies. I've got 10 notes, and that's how my presentations are made.
Yeah, it's
Russell
true.
Said,
hey, brother, when you with the earth, you go to ground. When you go barefoot and walking on that earth, everybody forgot to do that. They forgot to get back to ground. When you come back to ground, that's where you find yourself.
Yeah, get rid of those rubber soles. Get rid of those Nike, that rubbish that we're wearing. You don't need anything on your feet.
Yep.
How Russell also said too that. I think he was being a little facetious here, but that nature was a jealous God. She'll only speak to you when you're alone with her. And that's one of the things that you really have to consider, that all the great men who are truly inspired geniuses had a very strong connection with nature. And that's a theme, that common thread that runs.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, I'm so lucky. I've got the most beautiful area in Melbourne on the outskirts, on the Dandenong mountain range, and so I just take my shoes off, grab my beautiful little dog, and take an hour walk every day. And I walk on some of the roughest terrain. There's stones and gravel, but what it does is it stimulates all those centers, those nerve centers that are on the foot. And the foot, when you massage those, I come back down from there because I build up a lot of stress with what I do. Radio all the time. I'm always very, very stressful. But when I come back down from the mountain, there's no stress, absolutely no stress. So I've got to do it. I can't afford not to. So, folks, if you're listening, get out in nature and love her, and you will lift the veil.
And if you can't get out in nature, then there's always meditation, and that's go inside the equator of yourself, and your equator is directly in line with your center. Your 7 chakras are manifestations, major energy centers of this emission of the equator. The heat of the greatest heat in your body is in the dead center of your equator. You can follow the septum of your nose. Between your eyes, the gap in your front teeth, even the head of a man's sexual organ and woman's sexual organ, there's a perfect dividing line between your entire body. The belly button, the throat, everything is in line with the center. So and one of the things I want to clarify real quick that we didn't get to on the last show was about the New Age, how the New Age is always talking about raise your vibrations, raise your vibrations. Well, no, you don't want to raise your vibrations to get to the center, because in the center is stillness. So you have to
Yeah,
decentrate, unconcentrate, unwind your thoughts into space and become still in the center of yourself. Your left hand is your left hemisphere. Your right hand is your right. These are moving things, but in the center there is no motion. And that's where you really got to get to. And if you're in a crowded city, you can still find that center in yourself, which is where those whisperings of the silent, still, small voice come from. That's where the greatest inspirations come from, or within that center of yourself.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful. Music to my ears. Kate, did you get those callers? Because we've got about 6 minutes.
Yeah, we're no luck there. Just all listeners. What you guys have just said about the music there and the stillness. That's one of the reasons why you have musicians that are in this movement to the degree that we are, and it's because we have spent countless hours being at one with our instruments in the stillness of ourself, and that's where the creative right energy juices flow, in that beautiful stillness. That it is
absolutely
liquid meditation. That's
I had a profound visionary experience just yesterday. I was reading an excerpt of Walter's, a book about Walter and Leo called Remembered for Love, and in it said in the year 1945, I believe it was, or 46, Walter was in the Reno, Nevada area, and he was in the Sierras, or the mountains around there, and he was in ecstasy around his birthday, as he always would be, and he heard God's Grand Symphony. And in 2007, I took a trip to New Mexico with a shaman friend of mine, and did a heroic dose of psilocybin. And in that experience, I heard what I can only call the music of the spheres, or the Grand Universal Symphony. I can still hear it today. It's never left. And really, the music of the spheres is something to behold. It's just continuous. And so I was under the attempt to try to, I charged myself with trying to reproduce this sound, and I realized the futility to that, because if I had every insect that made noise, every animal, every human that could sing, and every musician that could play, all sounding their instruments at one time, it wouldn't even begin to touch the sound that I could hear. But it's funny, because in those still places, as you said, that's where the musician has the flash of inspiration, or the artist, or the poet, or the writer. They have that flash of inspiration, and then they bring out from in their center and build a body and concentrate on that flash in their mind until it becomes complete enough, no longer nebulous, but complete enough to be able to build a body for it. So all of Santos's work is first his idea. All of the work that you gentlemen have done was a flash that you built bodies for. And that's the difference between a man of genius and a man of mediocrity, is the genius actually acts on his thoughts to balance his actions. And this is living with purpose. And very, very many people on this planet live without purpose. And I think that's because they are, put it this way, there is a conspiracy to keep people in a body-dwelling state. Everywhere you go, I mean, sometimes Robert and I would be searching for pictures. He'd go, okay, we need a picture of an atom, and I'd look up pictures of atoms, and there's 6 or 8 pictures of Playboy models around the pictures of atoms. It's like, do they do that on purpose, just to get people off of what they're trying to? It's so easy. It's
divert the energy, divert the mind.
You get
better
control
believe
of the body. You keep it stimulated with distractions that are, I call it materialistic externalism. It's living an external life where the ego defines you as opposed to the soul. And all these people that have this symptom are so obvious to point out. I can barely tolerate to be around any of them. But it's just one of those things you got to pick up on and be aware of, and it's so important to go within. That's where it all is. It's where the whole universe is contained within you.
Yeah, and until such time as you do that, you will always be looking through those glossy magazines and wishing you were Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and you had your Rolex watches and all of those good things that they've got. Well, all of those good things are already owned, folks. They're owned by universal mind thinking. You cannot own these so-called molecules that appear before your eyes. You can just use them as they as they appear before you temporarily, and then you have to let them go. So you're going to be forced to do it anyway, whether you agree, whether you want to, whether you have will or intent towards this. One day you'll just be forced to see it that way.
Hey, Santo, we're in the
Yep.
last minute here. I just want to let everyone, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We can keep this going, no problem, past the hour. It's not a problem. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in to Freedom Reigns Blog Talk Radio. You can get to freedomreigns.us website at freedomreigns.us. Don't forget that you can become a member of the page. We have a YouTube channel as well. All the connections are there, as is the way with Syncretism. What are the odds? So while we're on there, I do want to thank you, Sandra. What a beautiful show, and Mark and Rob and Peter and Tony. Oh my God, this is one to put in the annals of history. It's beautiful. So anyway, I just want to say that so we can carry on past the hour for people who want to download it afterwards. So I'm done.
Yeah, and I'd like to remind folks that we can probably have Matt and Robert back anytime. They can just pop in on the show, and we'll give them plenty of airtime. That's for sure. But folks, if you want to do another 5 or 10 minutes, we can just continue on. If you want to finish off some thoughts, and then we'll let you go, guys, because no doubt you're busy.
Sounds like a winner.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
So last-minute thoughts or anything that you would like to just get out, because this is being recorded, so it'll be part of the show as the recorded part.
Sure. Robert, you want to say anything?
No, I think we pretty much said it all we need to say for today.
Right.
Yep.
One of the things that I wanted to mention, guys, is one of the possible situations that we're taking that we may not be considering here is a lot of the research that I've sort of like picked up on people like Professor Jonathan Searle, Tesla, and many others have come up with free energy systems a long time ago. I've done a lot of research into the pyramids and how they generated electricity from natural vibrations or harmonics and all sorts of other things. So the reality basically here is that not only have we got free energy, it's also encoded into the Masonic structure inside the Masonic temples and Masonic secrets. The information's been hidden in the Vatican about free energy and all this for a very long time. So consequently, it leads you to the obvious conclusion that obviously what's actually happened, we've got a situation here where Timothy Good and many other people I've listed in the book that I wrote, which is available free, but the point being is what the research points to is that we've always had free energy, it's just the fact that it's been hidden. And so if that's the case, and we're putting nuclear power plants all over the world, as I said, pointed out, over 700, with this nuclear crap sitting on top of the reactors, and they know how dangerous it is. So it sort of makes absolutely obvious sense when you look at it on this level. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Hello.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Where did they go?
Oh, they're still there.
I'm here.
They're on the board. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you saying that what I gather from that statement is that they're going to deliberately blow the world up?
Well, no, what I'm saying is, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's not about blowing the world up. Have you looked at the positions on the planets where they've placed them? I mean, the New Madrid fault line has got 18 along the New Madrid fault. That's just one. Fukushima was on, the totally open area where it could be taken out by a tidal wave. Now, which idiot would build that there? And why would an idiot be allowed to get away with building it there? To me, it's falling off a log.
I could only think it'd be sinister in its design if they actually knew what they were doing, which I doubt they did. I mean, unless there's
18 along the New Madrid fault, you can't exactly make that up. It's an example.
Sure.
But there's many more.
I may not know what the cause of their reasoning to do it was, but I do know what the effect's going to be if there's an earthquake. It's going to be if enough nuclear material in the form of particles in the upper atmosphere, it will partially explode the planet, if not the entire planet, and there will be a belt here similar to the one between Mars and Jupiter, upon which when Mercury gets out to the pressure zone of where Earth is, people on that planet will look to to the asteroid belt between Venus and Mars and say there used to be a planet there. That's what's going to happen if these things go up.
Well, this is the thing. If there's such a thing as a solar flare hits the Earth and it knocks out the power supplies, let's just say that the backup reactors of diesel generators in these plants manage, for some incredibly unknown reason, because they're not hardened, to kick up the generators and cool the water and pump the water. And if they run out of diesel because all the lorries' microchips have been fried and CDI drivers, the electronic ignition systems in most of these cars,
we're doomed.
We're doomed, exactly. So I think
the only option here is that A, it's deliberate, because they've already established,
exactly.
At least they think they're going to live off-world, But the other option is that they're psychopaths, and that they're, as all psychopaths are, they'd rather kill themselves than give up power.
This is the point. What I'm saying here is the technology that we had way, 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 way back then has all been hidden or occulted or hidden away. So
sure.
I'm talking anti-gravity, I'm talking, the secrets to the pyramids, free energy, all these things, extra long lives like Moses, 800, 900-year lifespans, all these things, mercury in the water, fluoride, chemtrails, GMO, all of these things aren't accidents. They're all been done deliberately. So my point is what I've done in my book, I've laid them all out, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it makes it's obvious by the time you've worked through all these things, including...
So what is your conclusion as to the reason? Do they have underground bases that they think they're going to survive in? Are they off-world? What is your findings on this?
It's all about control. It's not even about money. Pardon me.
Well, I mean, it's funny because it makes... I understand the deliberateness with it, but what I don't understand, where if they die from it too, what good is it?
This is the point. The truth of the matter is we can reduce the effects of radiation if we've got extremely advanced technology that can, basically wipe out a lot of the radiation. But they haven't let us get that. They've got that. The fact of the matter is we've got a breakaway civilization running this planet that's always run the planet back from the year dot. And Kate and I were talking about bloodlines and the 13 and, all these other things, but what we've done is factor them all in together, and it can be the only sensible solution at the end of the day when you understand the systems and the level of technology they've got. Just a couple of nights ago we were talking about electrogravitics, which is how they positively charge the front of the wing and negatively charge the back. This forms a gravity well in front of the plane and reduces the actual fuel consumption by 60%, massively increases the speed. We could have that on normal liners if they wanted us to have it. We could have free energy if they wanted us to have it. We could have 900-year lifespans if they wanted us to have it. This is the point. They don't want us to have it. So the next question is, well, who doesn't and why? And that's the most sensible conclusion that you can get to. We've been conned, and we've been conned into what we call a construct. Everything's a construct. The laws, the politics, the fact we...
Sure, so what is the solution to it?
Becoming conscious of the construct, and therefore you appreciate that construct has been built. Next question, who built it? Well, they are the guys that built it. Right, next question, who are they? Where did they come from? And why have they built it? And this just naturally leads you through A, B, C, D, E, F, G to the conclusion we have a breakaway civilization that wants to control the human race through microchips, RFID chips, poisons, pharmaceuticals, and every other goddamn thing you can think of.
Right, I understand. So the next logical step for us as a species who are on the other side of this coin and the unbroken away from such civilization is for us to break away from that which broke away.
Well, no, it's for us to realize the magnitude of the construct and then not put up with it anymore. Because we've been acquiescing our free will to these people for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Time is now for us to wake up to the reality of what it is they've done, how massive it actually is and how far-reaching it is, and become aware of it.
You're giving them an awful lot of power.
They've already got it.
I'm not trying to say anything negative towards your point of view, but what I really think is if you look at the history of the world, we've had approximately 21 civilizations on this planet, and they all suffer from one unique symptom. They've all fallen.
Yeah.
And why do they fall? Well, they fall because the 1% of every civilization takes everything, and then the other 99 in nature's balancing reaction to the taking takes from them. So 21 times they've lost their civilization. Now the racehorse has a new pair of high-tech horseshoes, but I'm not going to bet on this racehorse for the same reason that you shouldn't. You should look at history and know that 21 times they bungled their chance to take over the world by trying to take from the world. They're violating universal law, and to the degree that you violate universal laws, to the degree you will be broken by it. It is not play favorites. You know.
I agree. I agree. It's called acquiescing to natural law. There is such a thing as natural law. You go around shooting uranium bullets at people in Iraq, pretty soon they're going to get the Chinese or somebody else come and shoot them at us.
Okay, I totally get the perspective. That what you throw attention at, you create. And we need to wrap this one up because I got people chomping at the bit to get this download. I can feel them.
Cheers, guys.
All right. I appreciate where you're going with that. I've been there in those thought processes, and I have a lot of respect for it and understanding for it. So hats off to you. But nice walk around there.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We just need to change our mind, change our universe, and we win this time. This is the 22, the perfect double 11. That's why we're here. We came here to see this final victory, and we already have the game, and we know it this time. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining very much, and great show. And let's look forward to doing it again real soon, hopefully. I really do hope that you can join us again, Matt and Robert. Just beautiful.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks, guys. And if you want to, send or Santos got your Skype contacts. Love to get you guys in the contact and keep you in some of the really fun and wonderful groups that we're in that are syncretism beyond syncretism. It's beautiful. But I want to say thanks. Great show, you guys. All of you, just amazing.
Take care. Until next time. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Hey, well, Kate, I posted it in your box, and I posted it over at. I just put this in as I was getting on the call. I says, "This is very interesting that we all sort of need to look at it." And so I forwarded it to Brother Ted, and he says, "Well, who's this guy? Blah blah blah." Well, I have some pretty impeccable sources who know a lot more than I do and are tied in differently. Anyways, I just want to read this below to you. If it be true, that will be fantastic. I'm from the Show Me State, but it's sort of ironic that Patrice broaches the issue of the FDIC losing their insurance and the FRB and all these folks. And then this came to me this afternoon. I'm going to leave the party neutral out of this. So, anyways, December 13, 2012, the Federal Reserve will be dissolved and direct issuance of lawful money returned to the USA and will be out of bankruptcy. The bank will not be renewed. It means states will be reconstituted as lawful sovereign entities. It means that all the bond insurance issues will vaporize. It means a return to common law, and that pleas in the court will be returned innocent instead of not guilty under their fiction scam. It means no more hypothecation on the backs of men and women. It means the choice to leave the 14th Amendment U.S. Slave Ship Status Corporation is open for business to all men and women. Something in reference to the dinar will likely revalue, and means that my people over here have quit trying to, my brothers in another place in the country have quit creating solutions in reference to the bond issues and stuff like that. Well, I'm not stopping what I do until I'm from the Show Me State, so until I can prove irrevocably that this may come to pass, and also they're saying it means the IRS will leave the Federal Reserve Bank, and it means the CAFRs will be released. And we've talked about the CAFRs on this on multiple shows. Anyways, this is, it's just, folks, everything's really moving at a rapid speed. The vibration's high. I feel the change. I feel the pulse. It's ironic. I knew why I was having a low drag a couple days ago, and then I look out and I see the almost full moon, and my vibration's high again. I'm resonating well. Energy levels are back on track. And then I have these so-called, I call them V8 moments, all damn day yesterday, pulling this crap together with how the insurance ties into the scam. The red box is all about it. When you put your stuff in a box, okay, folks, don't go out and do the red box unless you know what the hell you're doing. So I'm not giving anybody advice. I don't give advice. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm already on the Crunchberry Trail. I understand process and I understand administrating. So don't y'all go off on a tangent and start throwing shit in a box and thinking you're going to get some remedy or something. You better know how to operate. Yes.
Peter, I just want to put it in layman's terms for people. This won't take any more than 20 seconds. What Peter is effectively saying is that because of all of this that is coming down with the insurances, every bank is naked. Every transaction that was put through the bankrupt court system, which was in collusion with the banking system, is nullified. And in a greater sense, what I see coming from this, and we've been hardcore on this since about Thursday, so this Friday thing does not surprise me based on what we've been uncovering. As above, so below. That's how it works. Creator says so. That's how it does it, right? Create the vortex, baby. Create the vortex. What this is going to do is nullify everything. So everyone that was removed from their home unlawfully, illegally, that this all gets zeroed and returned. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Implosion time. Implosion time, guys. It was foretold. They all operate on contracts. They can only contract to do evil for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And then the contract expires.
Oh,
the day of release.
With regards to Matt and Rob trying to get on, do they have Facebook accounts?
Hold on.
Not sure.
Okay, because they can log on to Blog Talk that way. They don't have to set up an account. If they have Facebook, which they probably do, just tell them to log in that way, and then I can see them on the board. So I'm guessing that the other callers that have called in are just listening. Anyway, so I'll keep an eye on the board here, but if you can get to them and just let them know to sign in via Facebook, we can get them on the show stat.
Good. Done. I've already told them. Okay.
But it's so ironic, Santos. Yeah, it's like, we've been digging for gold, pulling up the rocks, finding all this stuff, and then all of a sudden these epiphanies. Like I say, you can't make this crap up. Who would have thought they buried this BS right dead in the middle of their insurance game? And yeah, it's all about the insurance because it's one big-ass LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, the IMF. So, I mean, my brother over in another part of the country told me, he goes, well, I got some good news and I got some bad news. So he sends me the good news about all this stuff coming down. He goes, yeah, the bad news is you ain't going to be able to beat the brakes off the bitch no more.
Yeah, you'll find.
Go ahead.
You'll find that it's the same culprits as usual. All insurance is taken care of in good old little Venice, Italy, on that little island built on the maritime waters. You see, they dare not put their insurance scheme on the land. You see, the Venetians followed the Phoenicians in building their great city Tyre in the Mediterranean Ocean. See, the Phoenician system, which is the insurance system that we have today, is a maritime system. And that's how fictional it is, man. It comes off an island. It's not even established on the land, because it cannot be. Because we live on the land. It has to be from some fictional source, you see. This is how they've duped us, and they do it time and time again. So they've been caught out.
Yeah, we finally got them, Santo.
Yeah.
No, that's it. Just something while we're waiting for these guys to get on here. Still watching the board. 1 sec. No, just numbers. Anyway, I had a thought because and this ties in with what Matt and Rob are going to be talking about with regards to vortices and what have you, with the BAT model of the solar system. You know the one I referred to.
Yep.
We are basically right now flying like the Apollo 13. Okay. And it's,
yep.
Those are two key things: Apollo, sun god; 13, that is divinity. Okay?
Yeah.
13th warrior. And if you remember the scene when the crippled spacecraft was coming towards Earth, they didn't have computers to calculate their direction, and if they didn't get their calculations right with the gimbal, they would have skipped off the Earth's atmosphere and went off into space. So what we're dealing with right now is, with the correction that we're having, is we as a collective of the neurons, basically we are the sperm heading towards the sun of creation, the egg of creation. And what we've been doing with the precessional wobble is we've been trying to adjust our gimbal. And what's happening now with the north and south magnetic poles moving towards each other to get into that neutral central to create that vortice. What we're doing now is we're finally at a point where all of these things are coming together, and we are correcting the gimbal on the fly, literally. So I just wanted to share that concept. So I do want to talk to you about this at some point very, very soon.
Excellent. Now, Kate, I've got the two numbers. We've got Matt. Yeah, they're the two numbers. So if you can just accept those, and we'll have Matt Presti.
And 925, I'm assuming, are the ones that just came in.
Yep.
Okay, their mics are both hot now.
Santos.
Oh, lovely.
Good evening.
Hey, Robert, how are you? Matt,
Good.
How are you? Yeah.
I'm here also.
Yeah, how are you, Robert?
Good.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we've just had a really, really good announcement. We generally have a panel on the show Syncretism today, and so we've just had a really good announcement, and that's going to just tie in really nicely with what you guys have been talking about. I've advertised far and wide that you guys are going to join us today. Now, just briefly, folks, Robert Otey is probably going to be dealing with more of the scientific stuff of Russellian science. And Walter Russell, if you haven't seen my presentation, I'll probably quote from him in every presentation I do. Now, I am nowhere near as proficient as Matt and Robert in Russellian science, but I consider myself to be a baby disciple of Walter Russell. But I do urge the listeners, please, and you will probably go out and get some of Russell.
And believe me, when I say this, every mortgage, every credit card debt, they're all unilateral contracts. There's never been two signatures on any damn document, valid creditor-debtor signatures on anything. So I just pulled this out of this gentleman Lentz's information, and he's been covering this stuff. As a matter of fact, we've been dialoguing with him a little bit ourselves, and we're trying to pull in some of the other sharp blades in the drawer. But it's amazing how when you really start digging in and searching for stuff that you actually find some parallels. And the irony is, yeah, they buried it within their insurance game. Speaking of insurance, this just came across my desk from Patrice, and if it's true, these people really are in the deep end of the pool on a whole different level. And I need the minute to dialogue on this, because I will get verification, so I can refute it or deny it. I said, this is what came from Patrice, but I haven't been able to double confirm it. But Patrice is a real good researcher. She was a captain in the Air Force, so I give her a little pull. I'll give her some kudos, because she does know how to research as well. She goes, I was about to send you the whole issue of the FDIC. The FDIC and the FSLIC have been dropped on all banks in the nation as of November 23rd. And what made these banks and instrumentalities of federal government was their membership in such insurance There we go with the insurance, folks. This is why I'm saying it's beautiful when it all starts dragging together, because it's all about the insurance. The bonds are all underwritten by insurance. The hazard bond, the bid bond, performance bond, all this crap is tied to the dadgum insurance game. And it seems that our brothers in the banking industry have just lost all their insurance. So that means they're all flying without a net. So this is really, really interesting. So this is where a 2 + 2 = 4. Anyways, the irony is the feds have dropped them under insurance coverage, which voids the bank's instrumentality status. Okay, not talking about stock brokerage houses or credit unions or pension funds, which are under scrutiny, just FDIC and FSLIC member banks who now no longer have a membership, as those insurance associations are gone. which is, of course, the Federal Reserve Bank is one of those instrumentalities, as well as Pete. So what you share below dovetails right in with what I've been tracking. While people were camping and screaming Black Friday, all the banks were dropped out of membership in the FDIC and the FSLIC, given that the insurance of the banks had to dissolve first to drop the Federal Reserve banks, which makes sense with what I write below. It wasn't me. This came from a brother in the country here. I'll explain that in a minute. Anyways, they can't dissolve the Federal Reserve Bank and then have the people go nuts making insurance claims, so they had to unravel and dissolve the banking insurance mail strip first, which they did do quietly on Friday. Do people know this? That's what Patrice asked me.
They sure do know. That's all.
Yeah.
And welcome, folks, to Syncretism. What a lovely day here in Australia. Hopefully the same for the rest of you folks. Thanks for joining. I have some very special guests today, as I have announced and advertised. We have Robert Otey and Matt Presti. And we're going to be dealing with some Russellian natural science. Walter Russell, natural science. And I'm sure you're going to absolutely enjoy today's show. Now, Kate, are you there?
I sure am, Santos. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Thanks for taking the board today.
Anytime, you know that.
Yeah, beautiful.
I just don't know who it's who, so I don't know what area codes are calling in. I've got three calls. I've got an area code 406, 602, and 804, so I don't know who's who here.
All right, well, I'll get Robert and Matt to let you know which one's which, respectively.
Yeah,
I'll get them to...
just get them to put it into your Skype, and or you can type the Skype, and I can put them on the board so I know who they are. Okay?
Excellent. But in the meantime, we have a great announcement and some great news from Pete. You there, Pete?
I am here.
Yeah, you beauty. I hear the good news. So how would you like to share some stuff with us?
Oh, very good. Yeah, we've basically been uncovering the debacle, the sham, and basically this applies to anything that has to do with insurance. The whole system is run by insurance. It's one big-ass LLC, limited liability corporation. So it's ironic that this red box thing that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, so we finally now are sort of turning a corner on finding the connections, and it's obviously, believe it or not, it's in all the states, and it's in their rules of 4, rules of 8, it's called, with putting this red box around the document and then putting forth together an order for them to provide. Matter of fact, every contract out there, I just found this out, between Kate, myself, and my brother in Chicago, we've been beating the brakes off of things, coming to these aha moments on multiple different levels, tying in all the loose ends. Yeah, this red box thing is sort of the kiss of the death. It's sort of the Achilles heel, and you can come forward as a live man to deal with them a mano in their live capacity. I don't care if it's a clerk of the court, a DA, a judge. You bring them forward in the private side. You put it all in the red box. I'm in the creation mode of getting this stuff. So that means basically